I am the MLA Legislative Committee co-chair, along with my compatriot Will Adamczak, who is running all our IT. Can everyone mute, please? And we also have a co-chair in training. Her name is Colleen here, and she will be joining as co-chair in our new fiscal year FY23. So we've all been working together. We're very excited about today's event. I would like to just take a moment and say, can you please use the chat function to introduce yourself as you come on? We are so appreciative of our members of legislature who have been able to attend. We know that they have to come and go. There's always calls for their attention. So we understand that. But if I'm going to try and work through some general welcomes to who we know we already have, I believe. So we have Representative Brian Ash is with us today with his aide, Liam Elliott. As you know, we have our co-host, Senator Joe Comerford. We also have Corinne Coriat. She is the aide to Representative Natalie Blaze. And of course, please forgive me if I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly. We have Sophia Fleonis is with Representative Hannah Kane's office. I believe we have Caitlin Letourneau, who's with Senator Velas. Katie O'Leary, who is with the Representative Mindy Dom. We have Representative Lindsay Sabadosa and perhaps her aide, Julia Mathis. And of course, we have Representative Todd Smola, thank you. And Senator Lesser was not able to attend, but we have his Chief of Staff, Molly Trowbridge. So I'm going to ask, first of all, I just want to take a moment and say thank you personally. We've had some great turnout at our different events. We also want to make sure you know that we have every intention of hosting our MLA, MSLA Library Legislative Day at the State House in 2023. But for today, we wanted to kind of envision as though we were there at the State House. I will let you know that I was fortunate enough to attend 2 legislative breakfasts. One was in person at the Worcester Public Library. Jason Homer did a fantastic job. And it was so wonderful, first of all, to be in a library that had just had a renovation. It was fully packed with people in Worcester. You had your
legislature. Internet so slow.
It was just, I had the Berkshire donation budget Zoom. It was pretty good.
Can someone mute, please? In any event, it was lovely to be at a live event, so it made us feel like we were back in reality as opposed to all our tough years during the pandemic. And then additionally, the Sales Inc., they did a fantastic virtual event, and all the number of legislators who were able to attend was fantastic. So I give them kudos. When our committee had recommended we start legislative breakfasts again, we were just before Omicron hit. So everyone kind of scrambled around and tried to do the best they could. And in the end, it was fantastic. But it's a reminder that what many people wanted to hear were stories. Many of the legislators respond and understand if they hear stories of what's going on in their own communities. So we appreciate that. But today's event is focused more on how to make those stories happen. So we will talk budget, we will talk money, we will talk funding, we will talk advocacy. But remember, it's always in the back of our mind. We want our patrons using our libraries in our strong communities. So I will ask you to picture yourself at the State House. In the past, we would gather, we would look at the exhibits that the different libraries brought. We would then gather for lunch. We would have some briefings. And I always like the chocolate chip cookie in the box. And then we would invite all the people who are attending to go visit their legislators. So that is our setting for right now. And at this point, I would like to introduce, I'm going to say Lisa Downing. She is the president for WMLA, Western Massachusetts Library Association. And I'd ask you to step in, Lisa.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I am so grateful for this strong showing of library support this morning. It's great to see your faces, and I look forward to when we can do it in person, hopefully next year. I'd like to thank the Massachusetts Library Association and the Massachusetts School Library Association for organizing this series of virtual legislative events across the state. I bring greetings from the Western Mass Library Advocates with a special shout out to our esteemed and amazing elected officials for joining us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The Western Mass Library Advocates provide a unified voice for the libraries of this region, as well as networking and educational opportunities for our libraries. Please consider becoming a member if you aren't already. We will put a link in the chat. The past 2 years have put a strain on us individually and collectively. Libraries have weathered the pandemic and continue to be a lifeline for many community members who rely on us in a multitude of ways. Books and movies borrowed or downloaded from the library provide much needed entertainment and personal enrichment. We provide critical access to Wi-Fi, hotspots, computers, printing, and faxing to enable everyone in our communities to be connected and conduct their business. We answer questions and provide accurate information, whether in person, over the phone, text, or even now through chat. We support students and teachers as they navigate one of the most challenging times for learning. We provide programs and services from story time to dementia-friendly memory kits and everything in between, offered in person, virtually as make and take kits, and now in a hybrid environment. This year's legislative theme is Getting It Done, and this is just a sample of how we do it. We have reimagined library services and emerged stronger. I am so proud of the work libraries have accomplished during these challenging times, and I want to recognize all of the library workers, trustees, friends, members, and volunteers who are here with us today. Thank you for being so creative and dedicated. This year's legislative agenda focuses on 2 critical state budget lines that have a huge impact on Western Massachusetts. And with the inflationary pressures that we are all feeling, an increase is desperately needed. State aid to local libraries is a critical part of our local library budgets and an important program to ensure standard levels of services and funding. We also rely very heavily on state aid to regional libraries that funds the Massachusetts library system, a cooperative model that results in economies of scale, equity of services across communities, and learning opportunities to keep library staff up to date in a rapidly changing environment. Both of these programs, along with each of the library lines in the state budget, mean that we have the tools, support, and resources to serve our communities better, regardless of if that community is of 1,500 or 150,000, resulting in higher rates of literacy, more civic engagement, stronger local economies, reduction of digital divides, and overall higher quality of life. I want to thank our elected officials for the strong support they have shown the libraries in the past and ask that you keep the momentum going by fully supporting the legislative agenda as presented. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll be bringing you back shortly. Your duties are not done yet, so thank you. Next, I would like to introduce, before I introduce James, I'd like to also acknowledge Representative Natalie Blaze. She's joined us, so I didn't want to miss her. Thank you. So next we have the MBLC legislative agenda that will be presented by James Lonergan, the director of the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here to support state funding for libraries. Thank you to everyone who organized this event, and thank you to our legislators for your continued support of the Commonwealth's libraries, including the budget lines of the MBLC and its affiliates, and of the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program. In the MBLC strategic plan, our mission statement stresses our role in leading the statewide system of libraries in order to provide every person in Massachusetts, no matter where they live, with equitable access to outstanding library services. It also stresses our role in advancing innovation and fostering resilience in libraries across the Commonwealth through funding, guidance, partnerships, and the coordination of statewide services. We do this working with our affiliates and partners, the Massachusetts Library System, the Boston Public Library in its role as the Library for the Commonwealth, the Perkins and Worcester Talking Book Libraries, the Massachusetts Center for the Book, and the 9 automated networks. As you hopefully will be able to see in a moment from the fiscal 23 legislative agenda budget request, we are focusing on 2 state aid budget lines this year. State aid to regional libraries, $7,094.01, for which we are requesting an increase of $1 million, and state aid to public libraries, $7,095.01, for which we are requesting an increase of $3 million. Thank you to our legislators for increasing both state aid lines by $1 million each last year. State aid to public libraries is an annual voluntary program administered by the MBLC that distributes local aid to municipalities. Approximately 99% of the Commonwealth's public libraries currently participate. It encourages municipal support and improvement of public library services, bolsters reciprocal resource sharing among libraries, compensates for differences in municipal funding capacities, and offsets costs to libraries that circulate materials to patrons from other certified municipalities. State aid funds may be used in any way that supports the library and has been essential to helping communities during the COVID-19 crisis. During these challenging times, librarians and library staff have been helping their patrons to find jobs, apply for unemployment and other needed benefits, and to start and grow small businesses. Many libraries have also been providing wireless access outside their buildings, and they are a key and sometimes the only source of free community access to the internet. Recent examples of how libraries use their state aid include updating technology, paying network membership fees, and expanding digital collections, which has been particularly important during the COVID-19 pandemic. Libraries that are state aid certified also have access to reciprocal borrowing over 59 million items from other libraries, to the MBLC Library Construction Grants, Federal Library Services and Technology Act grants funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and to the MBLC's Smile Libraries and Networks program, which provides libraries that serve communities with populations under 10,000 with funding to support their network memberships. State aid to regional libraries, budget line 7,094.01, supports the Massachusetts Library System, MLS, and the Library for the Commonwealth at the Boston Public Library. MLS provides delivery of approximately 14 to 15 million items on average to libraries across the state each year, and delivered 11.8 million items during fiscal 21 after having been shut down the service for 4 months due to the pandemic. MLS also funds statewide databases in partnership with the MBLC. We are currently in the midst of procurement process for products for the next 5 fiscal years, starting July 1st. In addition, MLS provides training, consulting, temporary staffing, and much more to help its more than 1,600 public, academic, school, and special library members. The Library for the Commonwealth at the Boston Public Library provides access for all Massachusetts residents to collections including ebooks, databases, downloadable audiobooks, and digital magazines, to reference and research assistance, education and skill building tools, and to cultural heritage materials held by the Massachusetts libraries, museums, historical societies, and archives through the Digital Commonwealth. Funding for line 7,094.01 is critically important, particularly for strengthening our statewide delivery program and making it sustainable for the future. As you can see, we've created a website for our legislative agenda. It's available at mblclegislativeagenda.com. The website includes fact sheets for our affiliates and partners to help legislators better understand the library ecosystem and services provided by each organization. We're requesting 5% increases for most of our other lines, however, a larger increase for the Massachusetts Center for the Book, $7,095.08, which had been level funded from fiscal 2016 through fiscal 2020, and received increases of $25,000 in fiscal 21 and $75,000 in fiscal 22. On the capital side, the MBLC is working with the Executive Office of Administration and Finance to increase our annual bond cap from 20 to 25 million in order to complete our waitlist projects in a more timely manner, and to help communities avoid higher construction costs, which increase every year they wait to start their projects. If the annual cap is raised from 20 to 25 million for fiscal 23, we will be able to reduce our construction waitlist by half, from 14 to 7 projects, rather than funding just 4 projects if the cap remains at 20 million. We will seek funding to support our next construction grant round, for which over 40 communities have expressed strong interest in applying in the future. We have heard some legislators say that if they don't hear from us, they think things are fine. Please tell our legislators your stories about how funding for the MBLC and its affiliates impacts our library users and communities. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'm going to also take a second to acknowledge Senator Adam Hines joined us. I think we had a little glitch, so we apologize for that, but we're glad you're with us, as well as Representative Michael Finn. Thank you for joining us. And now I am going to turn over the program to Debbie Froggatt, who is actually on an Amtrak. So if we lose her in the middle of this, we will follow through, don't worry. But Debbie, are you able to join us now?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Thank you, everybody, for this opportunity for attending today's event. All the elements of the MBLC's legislative agenda directly impact Massachusetts children. The agenda items bolster active citizenship in the Commonwealth. A significant element of a school librarian's teaching is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who advantage the established systems in the state. The Massachusetts School Library Association fully supports the MBLC initiatives, including inclusion, mental health, hotspots for students, and ebook content. In regards to inclusion, offered by many public libraries, the adult English language learning citizenship courses and basic English learning programs benefit school-aged children too. When parents and guardians can confidently communicate with school librarians, teachers, administrators, and other school personnel, students access an enlarged base of resources for academic and emotional development. The mental health training opportunities and corresponding resources offered by the Massachusetts library system provide school librarians and their students with tools and resources to receive needed support. Sometimes school librarians are the first line of defense. Similar to the school nurse, custodians, and administrators, school librarians work with and know every student well. What a benefit hotspots are for students. They were lifelines to education during the pandemic and continue to be so. Many school districts provided hotspots, but public libraries were there for families and students too. In regards to ebooks, the MBLC investment for ebooks for K-12 students expanded rich digital collections. School librarians were consulted on book selection and formats. Simultaneous use licenses allowed whole classes of students to read the same book, bolstering curriculum. These digital libraries and classroom resources were critical during the pandemic. MLS reported recently that the Commonwealth ebook 2021 circulation exceeded 1 million. Most were borrowed by students, with 561 schools participating. I must add that upon return to in-person learning, students devoured physical books. Nevertheless, content is here to stay, and we all learn to leverage the benefits very quickly. However, access to this content is not equitable. Across the Commonwealth, many schools are without effective school library programs. Effective programs offer a certified library teacher, an adequate budget, and a responsive schedule that allows all students to use the library regularly. In regards to the Commonwealth ebook collection, only schools with certified librarians are eligible to access this amazing collection. Similarly, only schools with certified librarians can access the robust suite of the state subscription databases. Currently, 908 school libraries offer this important research resource, accounting for 58% of the schools. This number is astounding when we consider there are 1,840 public schools. This means that 932 schools do not qualify for direct access to these 100% taxpayer-funded resources. MSLA hopes to work with the Massachusetts legislature and in turn the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to secure policy that rectifies equitable access to these resources, as well as an effective school library program. MSLA looks forward to sharing theoretical studies that demonstrate how the magical curiosity, scholarship, and lifelong learning experiences that a certified library teacher brings to a school community impact the academic success of our children. Thank you all so much.
Awesome, Debbie. Thank you. Now you can finish your train ride. We'll see you tomorrow again. So at this point, I would like to turn the program back over to Lisa Downing to make her introductions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. So I have the honor of welcoming Senator Joe Comerford, who has served the Hampshire, Franklin, and Worcester districts since 2019, following a 20-year career in nonprofit and advocacy work. Senator Comerford has a personal connection to libraries and a professional record of support, including as a member of the legislature's Library Caucus. It is an honor and privilege to call her my senator and to welcome her to the floor today.
Thank you so much. Lisa, that's a beautiful introduction. And thank you for calling out the personal connection to libraries. I won't detail it like I've done I think every one of these gatherings, but it is in my heart. Thank you, Lisa, Jennifer, James, Debbie, everybody who has called us forward today. I'm really glad to be with my colleagues. There is not a one of us here today who doesn't really cherish and love and hold up our libraries in this region and statewide, and we're all members of the Library Caucus, and grateful to the leaders of that caucus. And I personally am really glad to support this agenda, as every year, as you've done every year, you help us go into our budget meetings happening right now, fueled with the right information based on your needs and what you're telling us are the opportunities ahead. And as I think of libraries, I think of equity, right? That's equity to access, equity of access to information, equity to really make the most out of opportunities that are facing us, equity in terms of trying to ameliorate or mitigate the challenges people face. I think about libraries bringing the world to our communities. You are the doorway to a giant world full of new ideas, full of opportunities. And then I think about libraries as being really the messengers for the 21st century, the future that we all want to bring forward for our constituents. You are among the messengers that we look to most for telling us the way forward. So thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, Senator Comerford. I love all of that imagery. I will hold that in my heart today and moving forward. I now have the privilege of introducing Representative Todd Smola, who began his political career in 1997 when he became the youngest elected member at the age of 20 of the Palmer Planning Board. He went on to serve as a member and chair of the Palmer Board of Selectmen and has represented the 1st Hampden District in the State House since 2005. As a longtime member of the legislature's Library Caucus, Representative Smola has advocated tirelessly for libraries as ranking member of both the House and the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. It is an honor to have you here today, Representative Smola. Please take the floor.
Well, Lisa, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you today. It's an honor to co-host this event with Senator Comerford, who's a great advocate for libraries all across Massachusetts. And to all my legislative colleagues and their staff members that are here today, it is clear that we have a robust group of advocates that have gathered on this Zoom. I know that we all look forward to coming together in person back at the State House, but I do want to give a plug for the value of having a Zoom forum as well. And I hope that we can continue to do this in conjunction with in-person meetings in the future. I think one thing that we have learned over the course of the pandemic is, as much as we are not the biggest fans of online platforms, what they have had the ability to do, especially for Western Massachusetts, is bring individuals together that are caught by geography and by distance. So I think making a Zoom platform as part of the component for Library Advocacy Day in the legislature, I think is really a winning formula. So I would encourage us to do this in conjunction in the future with Advocacy Day in the State House. I do want to send a very special thank you out to all of our libraries and our staff members. And it was touched upon a few minutes ago, the amount of energy and dedication that our staff gave to so many people that wanted to utilize our library facilities throughout the course of the pandemic when they were available, especially for job searches and for being able to deal with unemployment issues. As we all know, there was an aggressive number of those cases that were filed over the course of the last 2 years, and individuals that were stuck by having access because of geography ultimately came to our libraries as a center meeting place, and they provided a wealth of knowledge. I can think of more than a few cases where a constituent that reached out to me said, "No problem, I'll get you that information. I just need to get to the library later this afternoon." That's a pretty good thing to hear, that they've got a library as a resource. So thank you for all you've done there. I did have a number of questions from library advocates about process, and I just want to spend a quick 60 to 90 seconds to talk about that process, because that changed a little bit over the course of the pandemic. And we are trying to slowly shift back to what we were used to pre-pandemic. As you know, all of our hearings converted to an online platform. So for the Committee on Ways and Means that focuses on budget issues, we did those virtually. And I anticipate that we're going to have some virtual component going forward in the future. I think this year, though, that we are committed to sticking to our standard schedule of budget release and hopefully budget approval. That was delayed during the COVID-19, the start of the COVID-19, but I anticipate that we're going to go back to that original schedule, which is that within the next couple of weeks, the House Committee on Ways and Means will be releasing their budget recommendations. There'll be a couple of days to file amendments to that, and then we will take that budget debate up at the end of April. The Senate, a few weeks later, will follow kind of that same process. And then once that is completed, we'll go into conference committee with the hopes that we will have a final budget recommendation settled for the start of the fiscal year. So I know that that is really the aim of the legislative leadership from the House and the Senate. And I think we're really going to stick to that. In terms of advocacy, and a couple of questions that have come to me as a result of amendments that are going to be related to libraries. Should the recommendations that you're advocating for today not make it into the budget, you already know about lining up support for those initiatives that you need to move forward with, and to make sure that you get legislators committed to those things as soon as possible, because there is an influx because of the pandemic of amendment requests this year, as well as budgetary changes that a lot of agencies have gone through. So the process, while it continues to be as it was, is still something that I think we need to get ahead of. You do such an amazing job at lining up senators and representatives to be library advocates. And as Senator Comerford said, we stand united in support of libraries. And how we prioritize those things throughout the budget process is extremely important. And your information and knowledge is valuable from the local level. So I appreciate the time that you have given us here today and the relationship that you have worked so very hard to build with the members of the legislative delegation, and especially to my Western Massachusetts colleagues who recognize and value the importance of what our libraries do. I say thank you to them for us working so closely together with you. And I think that we can have another successful year. So thanks for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Representative Smola. I can assure you that we have heard the message. We do know that it has really helped for Western Massachusetts and Central Massachusetts to hold these virtual events. So we will keep that component as well as in person at State House next year in some format. So I do want to take a second to recognize Senator Hines' aide, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, Chinyeni Ugocha. Thank you so much for also attending. So I'm going to take a moment now to move forward. I would like to introduce Mary Ann Kluggish, the chair of the board of the Massachusetts Library Association, and she will make a call to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Before I begin, legislators, I also want to thank you for last year's funding. But now to the library community, and especially to those who are new. About 5 years ago, my state rep, Alice Peisch, told me, if we don't hear from you, we have to figure that everything is okay. She told me that when every one of the lines in the legislative agenda was underwater. The network line was down 52%, state aid was down more than 10%, the MBLC administrative line had not been fully funded in about 17 years. We can't ever let those kinds of cuts happen again. What is the message we send to our state reps and senators if we don't contact them? Just think about it. If you care about an issue, you must make your voice heard. Talk to your state reps and senators. Call them, email them, write letters. Let them know what you're thinking. Ask each of them to please tell Ways and Means that funding libraries is their priority. Each year, state reps can walk over to House Ways and Means and tell them what their priorities are. Therefore, you have to ask legislators to make funding libraries a priority. Over the years, I've come to the conclusion that just asking people to support libraries is asking them if they approve of puppies, ice cream, or motherhood. It's a numbers game. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Think about it. If you're a state rep and you get 100 emails and calls on item X, and you get 20 emails or calls on item Y, which one are you going to consider most important? So it's all about the numbers. Every political office tallies up the number of contacts they get on each item. You know, I ask this every year. Can we set a small goal of just 10 people from each community to contact their reps and senators? Just 10, or even better, 15 as a goal. Just making simple calls or sending emails. So do not let attending this legislative event be the end of it for you. Ask your trustees, your friends, your significant others to call or email their legislators and ask them to tell their legislators to please make funding libraries a priority. You know, over 90% of the funding in the legislative agenda that James Lonergan describes goes either to local libraries for services, goes directly to local libraries or for services to local libraries. So when you call or write your legislators, first, be sure to thank them for their past support and for last year's funding, but tell them in your own words why you need state aid, how you use it at your library, why networks are critical, why delivery is essential to your library, why it's so important that state aid and the library requests are funded. Include the links to the legislative agenda and include the numbers, include the link, that one link to the legislative agenda, and include the numbers like 7,000-9501 or 7,000-9401. Remember, if legislators don't hear from you, they have to figure everything is okay with you. And that would mean that level funding or cuts are okay with you too. So make your voice be heard. Call, email, or write to your legislators. And as Todd Smolla said, do it as soon as possible. And don't forget that important word, priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann. Well, we've ran this so efficiently. We have a couple extra minutes. I didn't know if any representative or senator had a burning desire to say something. Please feel free to jump in one at a time if there's anything you wanted to say. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Do I have any takers? Nope. Okay. Well, then I want to thank all our speakers, and I too appreciate all the work that goes into these events. We're going to be doing another virtual event tomorrow, which is for the Central Massachusetts Library Association area, as well as on Thursday, we'll be doing Boston North and Boston South. So we still have some more work ahead. And thank you to the legislators who continue to help explain how the budget process works. That helps focus us. So thank you all, and we'll see you next year.